Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Friday morning to you all. Hope you guys are doing awesome out there this morning and having a wonderful start to your day. And I do hope everyone's had a great week out there as it's coming to an end and we're about to head off into another weekend. So that's always good news, right? Happy August, by the way. It's August 1st. Sort of the gateway day to what's normally a more active period of tropical activity, with August and September being our prime months for tropical storm and hurricane activity. Of course, October can do some wild stuff too, as we know. So the big question is there anything out there worth paying attention to? And is there anything showing up on Model Guide? So we're going to give you a detailed update on the tropics. And this is going to be a heavy segment on my YouTube channel for the foreseeable future, even if there really isn't anything to talk about. So we'll do that, and then we'll give you an update on today's weather, and then we'll round the video off. If you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. And if anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, please put it in the comments below. So let's get rocking and rolling this morning. My little drawing tool is not working well with me this morning, so we're just going to kind of put the cursor over different areas. But honestly, there's not really anything to circle out here right now, but I will talk about current conditions out here in the Atlantic. The Gulf is pretty quiet. The Caribbean is quiet. You know, the Southwest Atlantic is also quiet. Now, one thing that we always look for is there any of those highlighted colors showing up on your screen, those colder cloud tops. This is a great example of that right here off the eastern seaboard, and Model Guide showed this very well. We always thought some energy would get kind of slung off the eastern seaboard, and here it is. Is this going to develop some sort of tropical characteristics with it? As of right now, that is not the case. Just a big area of thunderstorms off the coast of the eastern U.S. But you see sort of the orange and the reds and the blacks embedded in those two colors. This is colder cloud top. So that means that this is more stronger storm activity, stronger convection. The stronger these updrafts are, the taller they are, the taller up they get, the colder it is in the upper levels of the atmosphere. And this is reflected by these colors here. So just trying to give you guys an example of that. Now, are we seeing any of that out here in the MDR main development region? No, this is sort of the leftovers of a tropical wave that Model Guidance liked for a couple of days, but overall, I think Model Guidance did great, fantastic with nailing the fact that this just really was never going to have a solid chance of developing. And sure enough, the dry Atlantic basin pretty much dried this out. Not really a lot of deep convection with this. Now, we're still watching off the coast of Africa. Any kind of tropical wave activity worth paying attention to? Well, we need to pay attention to every tropical wave out here, right? But I can tell you there's nothing really to circle, highlight out here, just some shower and storm activity way out here in the eastern tropical Atlantic. So to wrap all that up, there's really nothing to pay attention to currently, honestly. And this is reflected by the latest from the National Hurricane Center. They're saying no tropical activity expected between now and the next 7 days. I mean, it's August 1st. It's pretty wild to see this. Now, I can tell you, early August is a lot different than late August as far as tropical activity, historically, right? There's normally just kind of almost a flip of a switch around mid-month this month in August. So this isn't totally shocking, but if you go back to last year around this time, we had kind of the beginning stages of a tropical storm and then Hurricane Debbie. If you guys remember that, it brought a lot of heavy rain across the southeast. So we were already talking about that. And by the way, we are... the next name is the D name, which is on a deck with us too. It's Dexter, which is wild because last year we had the D name up next also around this time, which was Debbie. But nothing expected between now and the next 7 days. But I will say the global tropics hazards outlook between August 6th and the 12th, this is kind of the key down here, and this sort of red and white striped area, it's saying there's around a 20% chance of tropical cyclone development in this area. And when I say tropical cyclone development, that could be a depression or a named storm, kind of a system with a defined low-level circulation. So they're saying, hey, there's a chance of tropical activity in this area, sort of some homegrown activity. Watch the Southwest Atlantic off the coast of the Carolinas. And then about mid-month, the 13th through the 19th of August, same thing, 20% chance of tropical development out here in the MDR, main development region, which is historically, that makes sense, honestly. And with a favorable MJO pulse, basically a pulse of rising air moving over to the Atlantic here in the coming weeks, we're definitely going to see an uptick in tropical activity. It's inevitable, in my opinion. I think that we'll be talking something totally different compared to right now, August 1st and like August 31st. I think it'll be just a totally new ball game, honestly, but let's hope not. So what about the European model? Is it showing anything from overnight? I'm going to kind of breeze through this at a pretty quick pace because honestly, it's not showing much. But we get into Monday. Today's Friday, Monday, August the 4th. There is a little bit of tropical moisture out here, sort of just a tropical wave, normal run-of-the-mill tropical wave. Is this going to try to develop? It very slowly moves across the central Atlantic, and it gains some latitude, and then it dries out, quite literally. Loses a lot of its deep convection, but the energy of it's still there, and we'll stop at about 10 days out. And if we keep this going past 10 days, it eventually develops this, but it looks like it stays out to sea. It gets very close to Bermuda there, and it actually does develop into a tropical cyclone, but then it kind of does a loop-de-loop around an area of high pressure, and I mean, it's so far out. No point in getting super detailed on that. Nothing really shows up behind this, so that's the operational Euro. I do want to show you guys a little bit closer to home because I am thinking we could get some homegrown activity potential. So starting it off Tuesday of next week, August the 5th, anything showing up, we get into Wednesday, we get into Thursday, and there is some energy right into here. It's hard to see it off this output. This just shows us where there's rain and storms, right? But there's some energy sort of right into there, and there it is kind of sneaking into the Gulf. There's not much to show you there, but there is sort of a little low-level vort somewhere into here. This cruises across the Gulf, but it never develops. So to wrap all that up, the Euro really does not show anything. What about the overnight GFS? And then I do think we have enough of the morning GFS shown where we can flip to that here in a second too. So hopefully I don't forget to do that as we're working our way through the video. But starting off this coming Sunday evening, nothing showing up. There's that tropical wave that the Euro shows also right here. Does it develop this at all? It does pretty much the same as the Euro does. We get between day 7 and day 10. It doesn't develop it. I mean, there's another tropical wave behind it, but the GFS is pretty much a no-go with tropical activity out here in the main development region between now and about mid-month, because the long-range GFS does take us out all the way to mid-month, August 15th. But it's the long range for a reason. It's not necessarily reliable. What about the GFS a little bit closer to home? Starting off Tuesday morning, it shows a prime example. And listen, it's hard to tell if this is sort of frontal or if this is the leftovers of the tropical wave that is currently getting closer to the Lesser Antilles right now. And it's right into here. There's energy here, and I'm going to show you the low-level vort map here in a second, but it's right into here. I want you to watch as just some energy sort of gets into the eastern Gulf. And sure enough, a quick developing tropical cyclone develops between day 7 and day 10 around next weekend and then moves into the Gulf coastline. It's only like a weak tropical storm, tropical depression, but it's interesting how it shows that. The Euro has that energy there too, but just doesn't develop it. And there is a big surge of energy through the Western Caribbean right here. You just got to watch everything. You got to watch everything because we're in August now. So, you know, Climo says tropical activity is inevitably going to uptick even in our slower hurricane seasons. Not saying this is going to be a slow one, but even in slower ones. But it does develop a quick tropical system here in the southern Gulf, Bay of Campeche, and the longer range. Now, what about, let's go on and switch this. Let's look at the morning GFS, and this goes 10 days out, so that's perfect. Does it show what the overnight GFS showed? And we're starting to get, that energy still kind of there. And we start to get midway next week. No. It doesn't show anything. It does show a big surge of moisture through the Caribbean, but it kind of does away with that Gulf sort of signal. Now, I'm going to show you something here in a second. The GFS ensemble from overnight has picked up on a heavy signal for something in the Caribbean. So, but anyways, we'll get to that here in a second. I feel like I got a sneeze coming, so if I sneeze here in a second, I do apologize. But we look at the low-level energy, and this is a week from today. And this is a great way to try to tell if there's any kind of energy in the lower levels of the atmosphere when you can't really see it on the precipitation output. And there is something there, right into here, right over the Florida Keys, and it tries to get going, and there's our actual tropical cyclone that actually does develop out here in the southwest Atlantic. It doesn't really bother anybody, but there is a little energy right here. There's a little bit of energy in the Caribbean, but nothing put together. There is a tropical wave that gets into the Caribbean here, but this is way out here. I mean, this is all the way in the mid-month time frame. So, what about the GFS? Now you're going to see how it spins up that tropical system here. Let's see if we can get this back in motion. It's going to spin up this tropical system right here. You can see it. Your eyes probably go straight to that. What about the energy trying to show up in the Caribbean? And the reason I keep mentioning that is because I'm going to show you the GFS ensemble here in a second and how it has a heavy signal in the Caribbean. But it does have energy there. And eventually it tries to get this energy going here in the Southern Gulf and areas just in the Gulf in general and longer range. So overall, we're not seeing anything too crazy out there. But if you do look at the Euro ensemble, we'll show you a couple things here. One, it's going to show a lot of L's off the eastern seaboard. And I wouldn't be surprised if we get sort of a tropical cyclone develops in this region and takes a quick name, Dexter being the name. It might not, it might do it. There is a signal for a tropical wave out here in the main development region, which is kind of what we showed you on the operational run, but it's very broad, meaning, you know, we got some members that are gaining a lot of latitude, some, you know, trying to sneak into the Caribbean, but it's a very wide signal. And we got a couple members starting to show up at day 10 in the Gulf also. Now, what's interesting to me is this run from the GEFS from overnight. This makes up 21 members. Watch how it lights up with members past day 7 in the Caribbean. Look at all these members here. It's an interesting signal. We got members showing up in the Gulf also. But man, that is a pretty heavy signal. It's kind of everywhere, but it's a heavy signal in the Caribbean. So it's interesting to me how it shows that. And I mean, it gets even heavier as it gets closer to Central America and the Yucatan Peninsula. So there's definitely something here showing up, but I do wonder what the 06Z GFS will show that'll come out here in the next hour. So yeah, we're going to continue to watch this. Nothing to be concerned about, but it's just that time of the year, guys, in my opinion, where things can get serious pretty fast. Meaning a signal can show up within a day or two just out of nowhere and then lock in to maybe a threatening scenario. So we just got to continue to watch. So it's an update on the tropics. Today's weather, I don't have an update on the cool down. We've made many updates on that. Cooler air is on the way, so that's good news. Cooler air has already moved into the country in certain areas. But as far as, you know, action falling from the sky, rain in this case, since we are in August, not really going to get any snow out here unless you're way up in the Rockies. But we got a big area of storms going through northern areas of Montana, some storms in the high plains and central plains, a little bit of rain in eastern Oklahoma, a little bit of rain scattered about in New Mexico and Texas. A rainy start here in southern New England. Got some storms along the Carolina coastline and the Appalachian Mountains, but nothing too crazy right now. Watches, warnings, and advisories. We do have heat advisories going all the way up to the Midlands of South Carolina, covering up a large, about half of Georgia. Does get all the way down into the peninsula of Florida. Heat advisories in the deep south, but if you noticed, not near as many heat alerts out there compared to the last few days that we've been dealing with. Some flood watches are scattered about across Washington, Montana, down to New Mexico. We got extreme heat warnings and extreme heat watches down here in Southern Cal, Arizona. Some red flag warnings across the Central Rockies also. Now, as far as today's severe weather outlook, we got a marginal risk across the Carolinas and Georgia. So I'm going to speak on this. Some of these storms could pack a punch in this area today. The entire state of South Carolina has a marginal risk with a front moving down. And we do have a slight risk across the central and high plains, and it does extend all the way into the northern Rockies area. So if we do look at the hail threat, I'm not going to zoom into this much. I would say it's not worth getting very extremely detailed on, honestly, but there is a 15% risk of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour. And, you know, for the heck of it, I say I'm not, but you know I always will. Here's a zoomed in look at this severe weather outlook. And then the hail threat, 15% risk of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger. Tornado outlook, there is a 2% risk today. So glad I zoomed in. 2% risk of a tornado. It does stretch all the way down into northeast Colorado. So this could be one of those days where we produce a sneaky tornado. As far as the flash flooding threat, we got a 15% risk here in the yellow, here, and here. So I'm really watching this area of the Carolinas today, and we could get some heavy rainfall with some of these storms. So 15% risk of flash flooding to occur within 25 miles in a given location in this yellow area. And I live here in Columbia, South Carolina right here, so probably going to get some big storms today. And one last really hot day for areas of the southeast before we get a nice several-day cool down. The southeast, though, a broad look at things as we start to get into the afternoon. There's those storms firing off the Appalachian Mountains, northern Georgia, northern Alabama. See the storms firing just inland off the coast, or inland into the coast of the Carolinas. And then we got the storms popping up in Florida and just normal thunderstorm activity across the deep south. But this will be really driven off some energy in the upper levels of the atmosphere in the Carolinas. A lot of heavy rain with these storms. And we're going to go on and take a closer look at this area for that reason. Virginia and North Carolina today, this is 2 p.m. This is 3 p.m., 4 p.m., 5 p.m., 6 p.m., 7 p.m. See the storms, and central to western North Carolina up into southwest Virginia. You also see the storms down here in the eastern areas of North Carolina. And this is getting into the evening hours. It's getting late evening. These storms are going to dump just a ton of rainfall, guys. That's why there is a slight risk of flash flooding. This is 10 p.m. Charlotte getting hit, Hickory, Greensboro, Raleigh could be getting hit by some storms, and they last well into the evening. I mean, this is getting after midnight. We still got storms and heavy downpours scattered about out here, so be aware of that, how much rainfall could happen between now and the next day and a half or so. Let's look at it, see if this is going to work for us, and it is. Charlotte can get about an inch of rain, Fayetteville about the same, Hickory, but some of these, the foothills of the Apps here in North Carolina, could get a few inches of rain. So just watch out for flash flooding. You know, the elevated regions certainly provide enough lift to squeeze out more moisture in the atmosphere. But Georgia, South Carolina, you know, we get into 3 p.m., 4 p.m., 5 p.m. Look at the storms firing up near Myrtle Beach, Charleston, almost like it's targeting those areas. We get some downpours scattered about, and then the storms start to pack more of a punch later into the evening. So this is 8 p.m. storms kind of between Rock Hill, Greenville, and Columbia. And then we get into about 10 p.m., 11 p.m. If you like a nighttime summer thunderstorm, this is going to be your night for certain areas of Georgia and South Carolina. We get a nasty line of storms moving down towards Columbia. Of course, guys, you know, model guidance isn't always going to nail this, but just whoever gets hit by these storms, I mean, Myrtle Beach could get rocked early tomorrow morning. You know, these storms are going to be loud. They're going to cause a ruckus. And this is rainfall between now and about 8 p.m. tomorrow. And tomorrow's another heavy rain day for the Georgia and Carolina coastline, but you know, 1 to as much as 3 inches of rain is possible along the South Carolina coastline, points inland. Just a lot of rain. If you live in the purple areas, I mean, that's over an inch of rain forecast. So, the northeast, rain will diminish and it'll turn into just a nice, cooler day. Still some showers lingering around, but not a whole lot to speak on for the northeast, guys. South central U.S., just area of moisture that you got to watch out for in eastern Oklahoma that will have a hard time moving. This could produce a lot of heavy rainfall in eastern Oklahoma. So be aware of that. Then more thunderstorms this evening will develop anywhere pretty much in Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi. We're going to get some thunderstorms in New Mexico, Colorado firing here. Northeast Colorado, these storms could be more strong to severe, at least have the potential to be. We get into this evening, some storms dancing around from Austin up to the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And then we get into tomorrow morning, and yeah. The north central U.S., nice day across the upper Midwest, honestly. But you get further to the west, a little bit of a moist feed, kind of pivoting around this high pressure and surging back up to the plains. This will fuel some thunderstorms in the western Dakotas, western Nebraska. So just be aware of these right here. And just a closer look at that here. We look at the Dakotas, Nebraska, and we start to get into the afternoon hours, and you see these big storms out here in the western half of South Dakota, Nebraska. You see these storms, Wyoming. These will produce damaging winds, large hail, and even a tornado threat. And as we get into the overnight hours, they'll begin to calm on down. So out west, some moisture dancing around up here in northern areas of Washington State, northern Idaho, western Montana. Got moisture in Colorado, a little bit in Arizona and Utah. Southwest stays relatively dry. That's that. Temperatures, whew, nice. Northeast, 60s and 70s for highs. Even though Ohio Valley, not that bad. Little corridor, very hot temperatures. One last day for Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, and Florida. But a cool down is on the way for some of these states as we get into tomorrow. And then out west, just normal summer heat. So, man, I rolled through that video really fast. It's another one of those videos where I had to start over multiple times. But hey, guys, that's all I got. Thank you for tuning in. Appreciate the support the first 7 months of the year. And normally the next few months coming up is some of the most active times. honestly, between now and pretty much February of next year is pretty much, one of the most active times with the weather, just because you got hurricane season, then you got the changing of the seasons, you got secondary severe weather season, and then you got winter, and everybody loves hearing about winter weather. So looks like the break is starting to slowly be over. It's been about a 4-month slow period with the channel, so things are probably going to start to inevitably ramp up in the weather world. So that means that we got active times ahead. So God bless all y'all. Have a wonderful start to your weekend, and we'll talk to you tomorrow morning. God bless.